Hey everyone, in this video we'll be taking a look at how we can enhance the styling in our components and of course to add some buttons which will help us to complete or delete our to-do, and we are going to do all of this with the help of some CSS and of course some out-of-the-box components that comes with Bulma. So let's get started. Now it's time to get back to the styling part, so let's keep this open and we have given it a class name of to-do. So inside our app.css I'm going to define a new style for to-dos, and let's see the background color. I want it to be white. Let's give a border radius, let's say that's going to be about 7 pixels, and let's save this. So let me reset the zoom and we can already see that okay, now it's much more visible but still not looking that great. Let's add some more styling, so I'm going to give it some padding of 1 em. This will help to add the padding here to make it look more readable. And now we also want to have some kind of margin between the elements, so I'm going to add 1 em of margin to the before the next task comes in. So it's looking better. So first task, buy groceries, water the plants, both of here. And just to show you how it works, so here I can start to add another task. So let's say complete homework, and once I save this, React already has rendered this here, right? So this is really great and it really helps us to see how React can actually iterate over all our objects here and render it. And look at how simple the code is, right? We have not done really that much of code. We've simply actually just gone through each of the tasks here and rendered it. So one thing we need to note is that when we are doing such renderings, if you open the console, so you can open the console by actually going to this more tools and clicking on developer tools and then coming to console. On a Mac you can do that by Command Shift and I. You press all the 3 keys together. On Windows is Control Shift and I together. Okay, you will see all the warnings that is being in our app here. So the first few warnings are in our code. We can see that set to dos is assigned a value but never used. So those are the old ones. So we can let's do a refresh, and the first warning that we see is that each child in a list should have a unique key prop. So what happens is that in React we need to assign different keys to different to each of these elements, especially when you are iterating it over like over a list or something to render components like that, so that React can actually keep track of the difference. So we need to add key equals to, so usually you can add the todo.title, or in this case, since we have the index and the index is going to be unique, we can add the index. So the key again is to help us to differentiate that this first element is different from this. So React actually can keep track, hey, this actually has a key of 0, this has a key of 1, this is key of 2, and then it can differentiate on these three elements that we have rendered. So that is the importance of using key, and sometimes you might be seeing that warning. So if you refresh, it should be gone. Of course, we haven't used our set to dos function yet. We have not done any updates on our to dos dynamically, so let's leave that for now, right? So that's great, we have this, but in a to-do list we would also want to have some kind of buttons and stuff, so let's get to that as well. Alright, so now let's go ahead and add some buttons. So in here, instead of actually bundling this into a single div, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to actually call, remember how we can use columns. Remember how we can use columns, and then I'm going to call another class name called column, and I'm going to cut this and paste it inside here. This will still give us the same, but there's going to be more margins because columns themselves have different styles. So actually we can reduce the margin here. So let's see how it looks like. Yeah. So if you take out the margin, it already looks good. We don't need the margin top anymore. And let's go back here. The reason why I added this is because we would need some buttons. So how do we show buttons on the same level? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new column. So here, div class name, I'm going to put it as a column, and then, but the issue here is that our class, we have applied it to the to a single div of the title. So I'm going to remove this. So instead it should apply to the entire row. But doing that, let's go ahead and edit our CSS. So let's remove the padding we have, and we can see it's slightly different now. We have two different columns. The reason why it's centered here is because when we actually add columns, each of the column will take equal width of the row. So if this is the space of the row we have, each column takes up half. So what we can do is that let's go ahead and add our buttons first. So again, we are using Bulma, and Bulma has great elements that we can use. So of course buttons are going to be one. I'm going to the button tab, and let's see, I would like to use let's say I want to use the success button and the link. So as the primary, so let's say we're using the primary and link buttons. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to come back here and paste it. Now we are not able to use class, but we need to use class name. So let's change that to class name, and let's save that. So if you go back to our application, we can see there's two buttons there already. It's that easy with Bulma, and you can use these components out of the box, right? So once you've added this, let's rename this. I need two actions for my to-do list items. So one is, of course, I want to complete them. Another, I want to delete them. And we should actually change the colors a bit. So let's use green here. So darker green, which is to complete. And for deleting, let's use red because it's a destructive action. So there we go. So now we need to do some alignment changes because this is in the middle. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to keep the text to the left hand side. So to do that, I can use a utility function in Bulma called hasTextLeft, and that's about it. It is aligned to the left, and for this I want it to be the right, but I want the text to keep take most of the space. So what if I have a very long to do item, right? I don't want it to like actually take up until here because the buttons don't need that much space. So to do that, in Bulma we can actually mark the column as is narrow. If you mark it as is narrow, it will only take up as much space as it needs. So let's go ahead and save this, and you would see it's already pushed to the end. And our to-do list is actually pretty long, and I want to reduce the size of it. And we also need to add back the margin because when we change the class name, the margin went off. So let's go ahead and add the margin. But even for margins, Bulma has utility functions. You can simply use margin top, which is mt dash a number. So it's 1 2 3 4 5 all the way to 6. 6 being the largest, it will be really huge, but we just probably need around 3. So now it looks much better, but you can see this is not aligned to this. So this is like centered, but this is like onto the top. So we can fix that by using something called is v-centered. This means that every column here is going to be vertically centered to each other. So let's save this, and you can see it has already come down and it's vertically centered to this column. So imaginary columns here, so this is one column until here, and here we've got another column. So both columns will be vertically centered. Now it's a bit too long, and to fix that, let's go back into our app.js, and we can add a simple thing here, which is this column that holds all of the list and everything. I'm going to mark it as is half, so it only takes half the space. But I want it to be in the center. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put, just now we used is vertically centered. Here I'm going to put is centered, which means if without the V, it's going to be horizontal centered. So is centered, and voila. So we have our to-do list looking much better than what we started with. We can also do some kind of styling changes. So for the background, you can use something called UI gradients. So if you go to uigradients.com, you can actually get a lot of beautiful gradients that we can use for our application. So let's take a look, right? So which of this looks great? So let's see. I really like this sweet morning, sounds nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the CSS here. I'm going to copy the CSS, go into my app.css, instead of background color, let's remove this, go to the end and paste it and save. So if we go back into application, there we have a very beautiful looking to-do list. I really feel like this is coming to life, so nice. So just a quick recap, we have created our to-do list, we have created a small React component here which actually reads a static list of to-dos from what we have listed here and has rendered that into a list. Our to-do list is actually now missing a very important component, and that is to enter our to-do list. We don't want to be entering our to-dos in a code, right? We want to be capturing it from an input field, and let's do that in the next section. I hope this React series is really useful to all of you, and do give me a thumbs up below and subscribe for more upcoming content. Catch you guys in the next video.